Tonight, we have a quiet story about the Great Pyramid of Giza. We'll begin in just a moment. But before we do, write in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always love seeing how far our little storytelling circle reaches. And if you enjoy these bedtime stories, consider liking this video or subscribing. It really helps, and it means a lot to me. Thank you. Now, let's begin tonight's story. Long before there were cities made of glass or machines made of steel, there was a river, the Nile, flowing slowly through the dry land of Egypt, gave life to one of the world's earliest civilizations. Each year, the river rose and flooded the land. When it went back down, it left behind the rich, dark soil. That soil fed wheat and barley. It helped people grow food, raise animals, and build small villages. And from these quiet villages came something much greater, a united kingdom. By around 2600 BCE, Egypt had become strong and wealthy. It was ruled by a powerful king called a pharaoh. To his people, the pharaoh was more than just a ruler. He was a god on earth. He brought order to the world. He kept the river flowing and the seasons turning. And when he died, they believed his soul would rise to the stars. This belief in the afterlife, in a life after death, shaped almost everything in ancient Egypt. It shaped their prayers, their buildings, their art, and most of all, their tombs. For the Egyptians, death was not the end. It was a journey, and the soul needed help on that journey. Food, tools, a body to return to, and a safe resting place. That is why they built tombs. And for the pharaohs, these tombs were unlike anything the world had ever seen. One of those kings was named Khufu. He ruled during the 4th dynasty of Egypt's Old Kingdom, more than 4,500 years ago. Not much is known about his personality. He left behind few records, but he left behind something much bigger. A pyramid, the greatest pyramid ever built. It was not Egypt's first pyramid. That title goes to a king named Djoser, whose tomb was shaped like stacked steps. But Khufu's pyramid was different. It would be smooth on the outside, large enough to hold his soul forever, and made to last for thousands of years. He chose a spot on the Giza Plateau, a rocky hill west of the Nile, near the capital city of Memphis. From there, he could see the river and the sunset. And from anywhere nearby, people could see the pyramid rise. Construction likely began in the early years of his reign. It would take decades to complete. But Khufu had a plan, and he had the power to make it happen. To do this, he gathered architects, planners, skilled workers, and thousands of laborers from across Egypt. They were not slaves, as once believed. They were paid workers, well-fed and housed in nearby camps. Their job was hard, but it was important, not just for the king, but for Egypt itself. Building the pyramid was a national project, a symbol of strength, a symbol of faith, and a way to show the world what Egypt could do. The first step was preparing the ground. The builders cleared the site and leveled the bedrock with simple tools, copper chisels, stone hammers, and hard work. They marked the corners using ropes, plumb lines, and wooden sighting tools. Somehow, without GPS, without lasers, they laid out a nearly perfect square. Each side was about 230 meters long. Each corner pointed almost exactly to the 4 directions: north, south, east, and west. Even today, engineers are amazed at how precise it is. Not perfect, but close. So close that modern surveys often come within centimeters of the original design. And with that, the pyramid could begin.
Once the ground had been leveled and measured, the workers began the slow, steady process of construction. They did not rush. The pyramid was not something to be built in a few seasons. It would take years, perhaps 2 decades, and every part of it had to be precise. The core of the pyramid was made from limestone blocks. This limestone came from a quarry just next to the Giza plateau. It was easy to cut, but strong once in place. Each block was shaped using copper tools and stone hammers. Some blocks weighed more than 2 tons, and tens of thousands of them were needed. To move these heavy blocks, the builders used simple methods, but on a large scale. They placed the stones on wooden sleds and dragged them across the ground. To help the sleds move more smoothly, workers may have poured water onto the sand in front of them. This reduced friction and helped keep the sand from bunching up. We still don't know exactly how they lifted the blocks higher as the pyramid grew taller. Some believe they built long ramps of mud brick and rubble, sloping around the pyramid in a spiral or zigzag pattern. Others think they used straight ramps that extended far from the base. No ramp has survived, but the worn edges of the plateau offer clues. And the effort needed is not hard to imagine. Thousands of people, pulling in rhythm, guided by team leaders, step by step. The outer layer of the pyramid was made of a finer, white limestone, brought from across the Nile. This limestone was harder and brighter. When polished, it reflected the sun so well that the pyramid would have shone in daylight, like a white jewel on the desert edge. Higher inside the pyramid, in the chambers and passageways, a different kind of stone was used. Red granite, heavier and harder than limestone, was brought from Aswan, nearly 900 kilometers to the south. These blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, were floated down the Nile on large wooden boats. Once they arrived, workers had to haul them uphill to the pyramid's heart. This required skill, planning, and strength. But somehow, they did it. Block after block, day after day.
Most of the people who worked on the pyramid were not permanent slaves. Modern archaeology has shown that they were skilled laborers, organized into crews. They worked in shifts, likely during the months when the Nile flooded and farms were underwater. That way, farmers could take part in national projects without losing their crops. Nearby, at the base of the plateau, the remains of large worker villages have been found. These villages included dormitories, bakeries, breweries, and even clinics. Animal bones and charred grains show they were well fed, with bread, beer, and meat. They were likely cared for if injured. And some were buried near the pyramid site, a sign of honor, not slavery. Graffiti left inside the pyramid chambers, likely hidden when construction finished, shows team names like the Drunkards of Menkora or the Friends of Khufu. This suggests a sense of pride and camaraderie among the workers. They weren't just laborers, they were part of something much greater. As the pyramid rose, so did the complexity. Passageways had to be cut with precision. Air shafts were carved out to connect the burial chamber to the sky. The granite ceiling of the king's chamber was designed with extra layers above it, 5 small chambers stacked on top to distribute the weight. This design prevented collapse, even with thousands of tons of stone pressing down. It shows that the builders understood how to manage forces and balance structure, even without advanced math or modern tools. When the final layer was placed, the pyramid stood nearly 147 meters tall. Its sides were smooth and angled at about 51 degrees. At the top may have stood a pyramidion, a capstone, possibly covered in gold or electrum, to catch the first and last light of the sun each day. The pyramid's outer surface shone bright in the morning and glowed soft at dusk. It was more than a tomb. It was a message, a sign of order, of eternity, and of the pharaoh's journey into the afterlife. From the outside, the Great Pyramid of Giza looks like a single solid mass. a mountain of limestone rising from the sand. But inside, it holds narrow corridors, mysterious shafts, and a handful of carefully built chambers. Most pyramids in Egypt were built with one burial chamber near the bottom, but Khufu's pyramid is different. It contains 3 main interior spaces, stacked vertically within the structure, a design found in no other pyramid of its time. The lowest of these chambers lies beneath the base, carved directly into the bedrock. We call it the subterranean chamber. It's rough and unfinished, and we still don't know exactly why it was abandoned. It may have been an early idea for the pharaoh's resting place, later changed. Or it could have been symbolic, a representation of the underworld. Above that lies the queen's chamber, though this name is misleading. There is no evidence that any queen was ever buried there. Its true function is uncertain. Some believe it was part of a spiritual ritual or a symbolic chamber related to Khufu's soul. Others think it may have held sacred statues or objects used in royal ceremonies. The most important space lies even higher up, the king's chamber. This is where Khufu's sarcophagus still rests today. It is a rectangular granite box, perfectly fitted into the room and likely placed during construction. This chamber is one of the most impressive parts of the pyramid, not only because of the size of the blocks used, some over 50 tons, but because of how it was built to last. Above the king's chamber are 5 small spaces known as relieving chambers. Each one is separated by thick granite slabs. Their purpose is to absorb and spread the massive weight of stone above, protecting the chamber from collapse. It's a simple idea, but incredibly effective. Without them, the roof would likely have cracked long ago. Inside the pyramid, 2 narrow shafts rise from the king's chamber. They are not large enough for a person to pass through, but they are carefully aimed toward the stars. One shaft aligns with the Orion constellation, associated in ancient Egypt with Osiris, god of the afterlife. The other points toward the North Star, perhaps symbolizing the eternal direction of the heavens. This shows that the pyramid was more than a tomb. It was a spiritual gateway, a path for the pharaoh's soul to rise and live forever among the gods. Similar shafts connect the queen's chamber to the outside, though their purpose is still debated. Were they for ventilation, symbolic passageways, astronomical guides? We still don't know. The exact moment of Khufu's burial is lost to time. No surviving record tells us what rituals were performed or who was present. But based on what we know from other royal burials, we can imagine a quiet procession, a sacred ritual, and priests performing chants and offerings.
Yet, like nearly all ancient tombs in Egypt, it was robbed. When later explorers entered the pyramid thousands of years later, they found the king's chamber empty. Some believe the tomb was robbed just a few hundred years after it was sealed. Others think it happened much later. We may never know what was once inside. In modern times, scans of the pyramid have revealed even more mysteries. In 2017, scientists discovered a large empty space above the Grand Gallery, a steep passageway leading to the king's chamber. This void, as it's called, is still not explored. While the pyramid slowly rose on the Giza plateau, life moved steadily all around it. Not just royal planners and priests, but thousands of workers, cooks, stonemasons, rope makers, and water carriers filled the landscape with quiet activity. It wasn't just a construction site, it was a living, breathing community. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a large workers' village near the pyramid. The site includes rows of modest buildings, sleeping quarters, open courtyards, and large baking and brewing facilities. Bones from cattle and fish suggest the workers ate well, not luxury food, but good food, enough to keep them strong. The presence of copper tool fragments, ceramic jars, and workspaces shows that this was a well-managed place.
This wasn't a camp of slaves. It was a structured labor force, likely organized into teams or rotating crews. Each team had a name, often playful or symbolic. Some left graffiti deep inside the pyramid with names like the Vigorous Gang or the Drunkards of Menkaure. These weren't scribbles of protest, they were marks of pride. Many of the laborers were likely farmers during most of the year, but during the inundation season, when the Nile flooded and fields were underwater, they came to Giza to work. This allowed the state to redirect human effort during a time when farming paused. In return, the workers received food, shelter, and medical care. Yes, medical care. Evidence of healed bones, splints, and even surgeries has been found at worker burial sites. If someone broke a leg, they were cared for and returned to work when they healed. This was not a workforce that was thrown away. It was supported. Some workers were buried in small tombs near the pyramid itself. These tombs were simple but respectful. They included offerings like bread or pottery. That suggests their role in pyramid building was honored, not forgotten.
It wasn't only men who supported the work. Though women likely did not build stones, they worked in food preparation, textile making, and domestic support. Children may have helped carry water or watched after younger siblings in the camps. And while work was hard, the workers lived in a world of meaning. They believed they were part of something sacred. To help build the pharaoh's tomb was not just labor, it was service to the gods, a task that helped the king reach the afterlife, and, in doing so, kept the world in balance. The pyramid stood in the desert, but it was never isolated. Next to it, Khufu's builders placed smaller pyramids for queens and royal women. A long causeway, a raised road lined with stone, connected the pyramid to a valley temple near the river. There, rituals could be performed, offerings could be made. Later pharaohs followed this model. Khufu's son, Khafre, built his own pyramid just beside his father's. His pyramid is slightly shorter, but appears taller due to the higher ground it sits on. Next to it stands the Great Sphinx, a massive statue with the body of a lion and the face of a king. It gazes east, toward the rising sun. Then came Menkaure, Khufu's grandson, who built the smallest of the three pyramids. All three pyramids, with their smaller companions, stand in a line on the Giza plateau, a monument to a dynasty, to a time of vision and order. Though we now see the pyramids as symbols of the past, they were once part of an active and sacred world. Priests tended to the mortuary temples. Rituals were held in the name of the king's soul. Offerings were made regularly of bread, beer, incense, and meat. These rituals didn't stop when the king died. They continued for generations. To the ancient Egyptians, the king still ruled, not on earth, but from the stars. Over time, the world changed. Dynasties ended, temples fell, and knowledge faded. By the time of ancient Greece, around 2,000 years after Khufu, few Egyptians remembered exactly how the Great Pyramid had been built. The old records were gone, and so myths began to grow. One of the earliest foreign visitors to write about the pyramid was Herodotus, a Greek historian who came to Egypt around 450 BCE. He wrote that it took 100,000 men and 20 years to build the pyramid. He also claimed the workers used machines made of short wooden beams to lift the stones, step by step. Modern scholars now believe many of Herodotus's numbers were exaggerated. Still, his stories were passed down for centuries, and with time, more myths began to form. Some said the pyramid was a granary built by the biblical Joseph. Others believed it was built by giants or lost civilizations. In the Middle Ages, travelers told tales of secret treasures, hidden scrolls, or ancient prophecies sealed inside. Many of these stories were written by people who had never been to Egypt. They were based on imagination more than evidence. But the mystery of the pyramid made it easy to believe almost anything.
Even today, new theories are shared online or in books, some reasonable, others less so. Some suggest the pyramid was an ancient power plant, others say it was a landing site for alien visitors. These ideas make for interesting reading, but they're not supported by archaeology or history. The truth is more powerful. The Great Pyramid was made by people, with simple tools, with careful planning, and with generations of experience in stone building, astronomy, and design. Still, there are real mysteries that remain. We don't know exactly how the workers managed to raise the heavy granite blocks for the king's chamber. We haven't found all the records about the construction process, and we don't know for certain what may lie behind sealed stones deep within the structure. In 2017, a team of scientists using particle physics discovered a large hidden space above the Grand Gallery. It has not been opened, and its purpose is still unknown. Is it a chamber, a structural gap, something else? We also continue to study the pyramid's alignment. Its sides are almost perfectly aligned to the cardinal directions. How did the builders achieve this without compasses or satellites? Some researchers believe they used the stars. Others suggest they used the shadow of the sun at different times of day. What's clear is that they observed the sky carefully. They planned not just with the ground in mind, but with the heavens too. Another ongoing question is how the builders organized such a massive workforce. There are no surviving lists, no pay records, no project logs. But from the size of the workers' village and the complexity of the pyramid, we can guess that the system was highly structured. Teams worked under supervisors. Materials arrived on a schedule. Tools were sharpened and distributed. Food and water were delivered daily. In a world without engines or electricity, all of this had to be done by hand, but it was done. In some ways, the mystery of the pyramid is part of its magic. Even with modern technology, we are still learning. And perhaps that's the best reminder of all, that history is not just a set of facts. It's a living story we continue to uncover. More than 4,500 years have passed since the Great Pyramid was finished. In that time, empires have risen and fallen. Languages have changed. Religions, borders, and ideas have come and gone. And still, the pyramid stands. The polished outer casing was removed long ago, used to build mosques and homes in nearby Cairo. Its peak has been worn down by time, but its core remains, weathered but strong. Today, the Giza Plateau is surrounded by modern life. Cars pass nearby, apartments stretch into the distance, cafes and souvenir shops sit just beyond the ancient stones. And yet, as you walk closer to the pyramid, the noise fades. Time slows, and suddenly you are face to face with something built before the world as we know it even began. Tourists come from all over the globe to see it. They climb the short path to the modern entrance. They walk through the long, narrow corridor into the heart of the stone mountain. The Egyptian government works to protect the pyramid and the surrounding monuments. Conservation teams monitor cracks in the stone. Restoration efforts ensure the structure remains safe for future generations. Scholars continue to study every detail, from the alignment of the blocks to the history of the workers who built them. Engineers use drones and 3D scanning to create digital models. Scientists explore with tiny robots and cosmic rays, searching for hidden spaces. And though we know more now than ever before, new questions still emerge. What was once buried is slowly being uncovered, but much remains locked in silence, as if the pyramid is not ready to give up all of its secrets just yet. To the people of Egypt, the pyramid is a source of pride, a symbol of their ancient past and lasting legacy. It appears on money, stamps, and art. It draws the world's attention, not only as a tourist site, but as a reminder of what human hands can build when they are guided by vision, patience, and belief. One day, far in the future, the world may look very different. Skyscrapers may crumble, digital memories may fade. But it's likely the Great Pyramid will still be there, a quiet guardian on the edge of the desert, watching the stars, enduring the wind.